It's Patreon Q&A time! Yay!
Patreon questions. All people on Patreon ask us questions, and now we get to answer them.
Yes, once again, it's time for the Patreon Q&A, where anyone who is a member of the Buddy Chicken tier or higher gets to ask us questions, and that we answer every month, which is what the Q&A is. Why am I explaining this?
Because it's only our second time doing this, and people might not understand that this is a recurring, regular thing, or at least we like it to be a regular thing, so here we go, answering questions that you've all submitted. Why are you guys always playing with a controller, even in first-person shooter games while playing on a PC? Only because of less camera shake?
No, it's so you don't hear the keyboards. It's so you don't hear the keyboard clicking.
Yeah, that's important too. Also, yeah, less camera shake.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I wanted to do controller with Fallout when we started. Alright, next question. How have you guys not gotten tired of being around each other recording so much stuff? Lol.
I'm sure Mike is just absolutely sick of being around me all the time. I'm really difficult to work with.
I'm not tired at all. I'd say the best way to have a great life is to surround yourself with people that you like, and I've done that. And I really enjoy doing this stuff with you. It's been a lot of fun so far. It's a bit tedious to edit all this stuff, but it's worth it, I'd say, in the end. It is a shame that we spend so much time recording that you and I we don't do a whole lot of stuff outside of recording these days. So we get together like two or three times a week, which is already a lot. So we don't do a lot of extracurricular stuff, but who knows? Maybe in the future we can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm not tired at all. I would imagine you're more tired of me than anything.
He's lying. He's sick of me. He doesn't want to be around me anymore.
Nah, it's all good.
I remember Zach talking about meeting a civilian contractor while being in the military. Do you guys have any other stories about meeting or interacting with civilian contractors or even PMCs while being in the military? Or was that whole 1-5 ratio thing after your time? The person I met was probably not a civilian contractor, if I'm thinking of the same one. I don't know specifically what he was doing. He was some type of like special forces or higher than that. He had a UMP-45. That was why I was like really... That was why I remembered that, was because he had a UMP-45.
What is the 1-5 ratio? Is it 1 military personnel for every 5 civilian contractors?
I don't know. I've never heard of that before.
Oh, okay.
So my assumption was that it was 1 private military contractor for every 5 soldiers, because if it's 1... So that would have to be a massive organization to have 1 soldier for every 5 PMCs.
Well, the U.S. government is a massive organization, and logistics is something they pride themselves on.
Yeah, but now you're talking about private military contractors outnumbering U.S. soldiers.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, though.
No, that would surprise me. That would absolutely surprise me. The civilian contractors, the only interactions I had with them were like once or twice, and it was some of the people that were like truck drivers. And it's really nothing of note. I like talked to them for like 3 seconds about getting things. And then I never had any interactions with PMCs. The only PMCs that I had a passing interaction with was there were a bunch of them that were stopped at our base momentarily. And they had a bunch of GMC Suburbans. They had a bunch of Suburban vehicles that were just up armored to hell and back. But they still looked like a normal Suburban. And one of them had a Galil. That was like... I didn't talk to them. I looked at the Suburbans and then went and walked to the dining facility.
And that was it.
Yep. I never had any interaction with them. If you had infinite money, what's the first thing you'd buy? I'd pay off all my debt.
That's a good one, yeah?
That's the incredibly boring answer, is that I would pay off all of my debt.
Yep. Of course, that's a given, of course. What do you do after that, though?
Buy an M79 grenade launcher.
Is that legal? Can you buy that now?
Yeah, you can buy those.
Okay.
I just have to register it as a destructive device. But yeah, then I would buy an M79 grenade launcher. Or I would buy a 1990s Fiat Panda 4x4.
A nice vehicle to drive around?
I would hesitate to call a 1990s Fiat Panda 4x4 a nice vehicle, but I want one.
Why would you buy a vehicle if it's not nice?
Because I like shitboxes. I like little tiny god-awful cars. They're fun. They're great. I love them. They make me happy.
I'd buy it, drive it for a couple hours, and blow it up with my new grenade launcher is what I do.
Oh, I wouldn't blow it up. That would be awful. I would feel terrible about that. No, I would keep it. What else would I get if I had infinite money?
What's the second thing you'd buy? Tell you what I'd buy is a pump it up dance machine. That's what's been on my mind lately. I don't have any room to store it, so I'd have to buy a bigger house. That'd be the second thing I'd buy, is a bigger place to store my stuff. But the first thing, dance machine.
I remember playing Pump It Up. That game was fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Just like an old military. Oh, I would buy an LCAM landing craft, and then I would also buy a small motorhome, and then put the motorhome on the landing craft, and then I could drive the landing craft around on lakes and oceans with the little motorhome on it.
Okay. You could buy your own lakes and oceans with infinite money.
With infinite money, yeah, theoretically you could. Ooh, or I would get a Schwimmwagen.
Was it as a vehicle that
It's a World War II German vehicle that's basically a Volkswagen Beetle, but it's inside a bathtub.
All right.
Yeah, they're dumb. I want one.
Okay.
They're impossible to find in the United States, though.
Hey, if you got infinite money, you can buy as much dumb shit as you want.
Yeah.
What's the best noodle for mac and cheese?
Elbow macaroni.
That was pretty good, but I like trying to vary it up. I don't eat elbow macaroni as much anymore, but it's a good standby.
I mean, how are you making macaroni and cheese without elbow macaroni?
The shells. The three cheese shells.
Oh, okay.
That's what I usually do.
It's still elbow macaroni.
Is that elbow macaroni? I thought elbow...
No, I'm saying elbow macaroni is still the best
Oh, okay,
one.
okay.
What you do, though, is when you make macaroni and cheese, you throw like 5 raviolis in there.
Just 5 raviolis.
Yeah, you put some 5 raviolis in there, so while you're eating macaroni and cheese, occasionally you get a ravioli.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I throw bits of chicken in there to pad it out a bit more. Get some protein in there.
This is very important. He doesn't cook the chicken first. He just throws the chicken in there while the noodles are boiling.
And then I get sick.
Mm-hmm.
Not a good recipe. I don't recommend it.
I remember seeing a thing a long time ago that was a post that was like, I tried making chicken sushi today. It's going to be really good. And someone replied, you're going to get salmonella if you eat that. And she replied, it's not salmon, it's chicken.
Yup, I've seen that post. Yeah, do not mess around with raw chicken.
I recently got my 52-year-old welder coworker into your videos, and he greatly enjoys them. And me being 23, I absolutely love them. What would you have to guess is the average age maturity level of your audience? I literally just looked this. I mean, granted, this is for my channel, but I literally looked it up the other day. It's over 60% of my viewers are between the age of 18 to 35.
Yeah, that's pretty typical.
That's average.
Yeah.
So yeah, 18 to 35 is the... I would say, I mean, if you're extrapolating from that, then the average age is whatever is in the middle of 18 to 35, probably.
Well, no, I think the other big chunk, the 60% is that 18 to 35, and then like 36 to 50 is like the other big chunk. So I'm guessing like the median age would probably be 30. Something like that.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in their 30s.
If you had to pick like the mean, like the person who's in the exact center of the age bracket, I'd say probably 30 or so.
The maturity level is 5, though.
Yep.
I mean, that's what my maturity level is, so.
So we attracted a like-minded audience. So what is your favorite historical non-ballistic weapon? Non-ballistic weapon?
See, my first thought when you say that is, are you talking about, like, medieval weapons?
Would it have to be a sword then? Or even a bow and arrow would be a ballistic then, technically. So.
Or are you talking about, like, things that don't fire in a ballistic trajectory? Do airplanes count?
A claymore broadsword or a claymore?
Claymore mine?
Yeah.
I think landmines are interesting, but they're fucked up and they shouldn't exist.
Like, what do I say there besides sword? Swords are pretty cool. So the spear, you like...
Spears are pretty good.
Yeah.
Spears are cool. I have a weird fascination with shanks.
Yeah, like...
I own many different types of shank or shiv. Just small pointed implement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, granted, most of them are actually well made, which I think therefore defines them as not a shank or shiv.
No, then it's just a knife.
Because, well, no, because they're not intended for cutting. They're basically just intended for sticking something several times.
Okay.
So I guess it would probably have to be like a small stabbing implement. Is my favorite non-ballistic weapon. I don't know. I'm a big fan of when someone drops just a huge rock on somebody. I think that's pretty funny.
No, poor piggy.
Drop a rock on him. Medieval murder holes. Be like, what's this about rocks?
My favorite historical non-ballistic weapon. It would have to be a sword, though. I was pretty big into swords.
I like clubs, too. Clubs are pretty cool.
Yeah?
Just like a blunt bonking implement is pretty sweet.
It worked for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So, what is a hobby you enjoy that you don't get to talk about very much?
I mean, I talk about my hobbies a lot. Mike, what's a hobby you enjoy that you don't get to talk about very much?
Rhythm games, I suppose, simply because most rhythm games revolve around copyrighted music, and you can't really do much with that if you're looking to put a video out there.
It depends on the rhythm game. Unless you get something like Patapon, which is dedicated specifically around music developed in the game.
Yeah, but then you get things like Guitar Hero or anything with like copyrighted music.
Mike really likes to play rhythm games.
I'm a big fan of them.
weren't you like globally ranked in whatever the kick beat?
Kickbeat, yeah. Yeah, but that just might be because not a lot of people were playing it at the time.
Yeah, well, you're still globally ranked.
Yeah. Honestly, I need more hobbies. I spend so much time focused on work and focused on video games. I feel like I don't have very many hobbies.
Video games can be your hobby.
That they are, and I talk about them a lot. Going out and meeting other people is something I've been trying to get back into. So talk about that a bit more once I've gotten better at it.
Oh, you're in your 30s, man. It's all over.
It's over. It's donezo.
There is a reason that the Catholic Church qualifies finding a new friend when you're in your 30s as a miracle. That's a lie. I'm joking. I got that from a half as interesting video.
Well, even going back and connecting with people that I've lost contact with counts. So,
what's a hobby that I enjoy? I don't get to talk about very much. I talk about pretty much all of them. I guess reading. But that's just because I'm reading. I read a lot. I read a lot, or at least I try to.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, there's not really much for me to talk about that, other than, like, I'm reading this book lately, but I kind of don't want to derail playing Fallout to be like, LOL, I'm reading book.
I think a lot of people would be more interested in that at this point.
Maybe.
Tell me more about this book. Give me a 15-minute book report in the middle of us shooting at this raider. But I feel like you talk about a lot of your hobbies. I'm not sure if you got any that you keep secret. You
just collect stuff. If I could go anywhere in the world to poop, where would I go? I would do an upper decker in Elon Musk's favorite toilet. That's where I would go.
There you go. As long as it's got a bidet, I'll go there too, and I'll be right after you.
Oh no, that's not the point. Is the poop? The point is the point is to poop, but the point is to poop in the tank of his toilet.
You're pooping to send a message. I'm pooping for comfort.
Though based on some of the things I've heard about him, I don't know if he would notice. Speaking of collecting stuff, aside from my gun collection, do I have a collection of items that I am proud of?
Bullets? Do they count?
No, I really don't collect that many bullets.
Do I have any? I mean, I used to collect a lot more things. I had playing cards and trading cards and a whole shelves worth of books. That's a lie, not books, but video games and comic books. These days, not so much. I live pretty lean.
I have individual items that I'm very glad to have, but like...
It's an aggregation of stuff. That technically counts as a collection, but if you're asking about a collection of specific items, Oh, wait, no, I got an idea. I've got a lot of crochet projects around the house. Don't really count as mine. I'd say they're more my girlfriend's, but I get to collect a lot of them. She's given me a few of them, so yeah, I've got a nice prize collection of crocheted items.
I guess I don't really have anything. I have like individual items that I'm super proud, or not even proud. I'm just like really glad that I have them.
Yeah, flashlights and umbrellas and stuff.
No, just the one umbrella.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a collection of stuff. It's just the individual items here and there.
Have you ever thought about playing any team or party-based games with your significant others for a video or stream, like Mario Party or Smash Brothers?
You're not a very competitive person. We've actually done competitive games for videos and stuff.
I'm not a super competitive person. My wife loves playing Mario Party though.
It's a fun game, yeah.
So
does she rope you into playing Mario Party frequently? Not very often.
Not very often. No. But that would be fun to do Mario Party or like Mario Kart or something.
Yeah, we could do something like that.
I definitely won't get mad immediately.
Maybe something that's not competitive. Maybe a cooperative 4-player game would be a bit more up our alley.
Oh, because if we play Mario Party, the AI is just going to screw me over literally every second, because that's what happens every time I play Mario Party.
Yeah, you're going to have all your stars stolen the first 5 minutes.
Literally every single time. I will somehow go into star debt.
Start negative stars. I was thinking about that. You'd have negative stars.
The game will be like, yeah, we were going to give you a star, but then we decided to take one of those stars that you don't have away and give it to Mike instead.
Video games have a way of just screwing you over like that. I always think back to when you and I were playing a trivia game, speaking of party games like that. We were doing a trivia game. Mm-hmm. It was You Don't Know Jack, and you got the bonus trivia round. Like, we're going to give you a rapid fire bunch of questions, or we're going to throw a bunch of names at you.
Oh, yeah, and it was...
You tell us if it's the name of a gun manufacturer, or if it's the name of a character from Golden Girls.
And then the controller died.
No, that wasn't what would happen. They had the answers marked wrong, so whenever you hit the button, if you were answering...
Yeah. It had all of the answers were marked as, like, incorrect.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter how you answered the question, it still was like, no, you're wrong.
No, you answered 4 questions in a row correctly, and the game buzzed you incorrect for each one. So then you answered a question incorrectly, and the game goes, correct! And you were like... Okay.
Great. So then, yeah, now I have to do this weird mental thing of answering the question incorrectly to get it correct, and then I failed, obviously.
There were only 7 questions in that trivia round anyway, so
Just like,
yeah.
are you kidding me?
The question that seemed like it would have been tailor-made for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I noticed there being many times where the dialogue is able to predict the actions of Mike, the NPC follower. How much of all this stuff is edited in. Yeah, I do a lot of video editing. I adjust voice lines, sometimes subtly, to make it seem like my character is saying them. There's a lot more subtle voice line manipulation than you might think. Just trying to make sure that we're not talking over the NPCs and they're not talking over us, and we can squeeze a jab in here and there. And of course, I do that a lot to make it seem like it's cooperative Fallout as well. So yeah.
Sometimes we do actually predict it, though, because a lot of the time the AI in Fallout is very predictable and will just do a thing.
Yeah, or I've already set them up to do something silly and I know it's going to happen, so sometimes, yeah.
Do you make coffee with sweetener and stuff first, or after plain coffee is poured in? No, I pour the coffee and then I put the stuff in it.
Okay,
That's
that
like
makes sense.
I would not pour the milk into a bowl and then pour the cereal in.
I wouldn't either. I don't know of anyone who does that, but I think that's a question that's been asked before of other people. Apparently it's a thing some people do.
That seems like a really fucking weird thing to do.
You're gonna make a mess. Milk is gonna splash everywhere. If you
maybe if you like don't want to stir it and you're like, oh, this is gonna it'll mix all the ingredients together.
yeah,
but
perhaps
like,
the turbulence of pouring in the coffee starts stirring it up, but still want to stir it because it could be clumped together. I don't.
yeah. Well, I mean, I usually only use creamer, so
I don't drink coffee at all. So there's your answer.
I like coffee.
Did you get into coffee before or after the military?
While I was in the military,
I see. That's how they got you in there.
I made coffee when I was in Iraq by using an engine filter for a vehicle. We didn't have any coffee filters, so I went and ripped apart an engine filter, like an air filter, and then just jammed that into the coffee machine and then made coffee through it.
You make do with what you have.
It worked.
Coffee's-
It didn't work great. The
coffee's gotta
coffee
get made.
tasted like shit, but it worked. It
Tasted
still
like-
made coffee.
Coffee tastes like motor oil, but it's all right. Grease all in there.
No, it was an air filter. It was an air filter, and it was new, I'll have you know.
Yeah, but
it was a completely new thing that your tax dollars paid for that I destroyed to make coffee. Technically, your tax dollars paid for the coffee, too, so whatever.
Tax dollars
And your
hard at
tax
work,
dollars
yeah.
paid me while I was there.
Money well spent.
Also, so did my tax dollars. They paid me while I was there, too.
You paid yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, when I make coffee, I pour the coffee into the cup, and then I add the creamer to it.
Gotcha.
I add French vanilla creamer. I was wondering what you two think about the Borderlands series. I don't like it.
You're not a big fan of the company that makes it, I know that much.
I don't like Gearbox Software. I fucking hate Randy Pitchford. The entire Borderlands game series is wholesale stolen from a dude's animation.
Oh.
100% wholesale stolen from a guy's animation that's called Code Hunters. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Code Hunters. Basically, if I understand this correctly, Gearbox Software contacted the artist and said, hey, we really like this and we'd like to make a game based around it. Would you be willing to come in and do some stuff? And he said, yeah, that would be great. So they brought him in, he did some stuff, he left, and then they never contacted him again. And he was like, hey, so are you guys gonna, are we working together on this thing? And they just never contacted him again. And then the game came out later and it was just a wholesale ripoff of Code Hunters.
Wow.
Literally, Tiny Tina's in it.
Wait, you can't rip wholesale characters without paying royalties.
It is a young girl who is chewing gum, and she specializes in explosives.
I see. So just ripped off archetypes.
Ripped up literally the whole thing.
Damn.
Anyway, I don't like Borderlands. I've talked about this before, ad nauseum, hundreds of times. I don't like the fact that Randy Pitchford took all of the funding away from Aliens Colonial Marines to make Borderlands. The first one is completely forgettable. The second one is better.
The Borderlands games, you mean?
Yeah, the first Borderlands game is completely forgettable.
You know, that's the only game I played through in the Borderlands series all the way through from start to finish.
Yeah.
I played through with my girlfriend at the time. It was a fun cooperative game, but yeah, it didn't leave much of a lasting impression. I can't remember much about the story or key moments or anything. Nothing stands out in my mind.
Yeah.
Other than the disappointing ending.
I know you really like the Tales from the Borderlands.
Yeah, that's the only Borderlands games I would enjoy, the one that was done by Telltale. I really enjoyed that style of game, and I thought they did a pretty good job with the intellectual property.
We tried to play that game on the channel, but the problem with playing that game is because that game is entirely dialogue.
It's very story heavy, dialogue heavy.
It's almost entirely dialogue heavy. There are things that you can walk around and do, but not very much.
Yeah,
It basically turns into either us talking over this thing that people really want to see the entire time, or we don't say anything.
and that's what we were doing. Like 15 minutes in, we realized we hadn't really said much of anything. The story was just playing itself.
Yeah. So that's why we never played that one on the channel.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry I got off on a huge tangent about Borderlands. I don't particularly care for Borderlands.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of it. Don't particularly care for it.
Yeah, and I've tried the second and third games, but never really got into them. Didn't really have a whole lot of people to play with. I tried to play with Zach, but he wasn't really interested because at that point he'd already realized he wasn't a fan of the Borderlands series. So
Yeah.
I just didn't really have anyone to play with and didn't really have any interest. The first one left such a lasting impression on me, I couldn't wait to go back. After watching Godzilla Minus One, I heard good things about that one, I fell in love with the J7W Shinden Jet Koichi flew in the movie. What are your favorite non-American planes?
I have several non-American planes that are my favorite, but if I have to pick my all-time favorite non-American airplane,
You do, it's required.
it is the Antonov AN-2, which is the NATO reporting code Colt. That is my favorite non-American airplane.
What do you like about that one?
Well, I have demonstrated my love for shitboxes. The Antonov AN-2, you know the myth of Russian products are super reliable and rugged and ugly, but they work all the time. That's totally a myth, and it's not actually fucking true
That really
in any sense of the word.
I haven't heard that myth.
Oh, it's a
Okay.
very pervasive myth that is not fucking true.
All right.
The Antonov AN-2 is the exception to that.
Okay.
The AN-2 is the exception to that, and I think that's probably because it's Ukrainian and not Russian, but whatever. The AN-2 is a biplane that technically is still in service. It's a biplane, which in of itself is weird. The older ones have a radial engine, which again, in itself is weird. The fact that like it's still being produced. I will just go through a brief list of some of my favorite features of the AN-2. It has no listed stall speed.
What does that mean?
That means, so in airplanes, if you fly too slow, it enters what's called a stall, where the wings are not generating enough lift and the airplane just starts to fall.
Okay.
The AN-2 doesn't have a stall speed. If it gets going too slow, it can literally fly at 25 miles an hour, which is insane for an airplane. The fact that it can fly at a pace that you could feasibly keep up with for a couple seconds, like by just running.
I mean, any plane can do that if they're flying into strong headwinds.
But normally you have to have a really, really strong headwind. And this thing literally there are videos of the AN-2 flying backwards. By flying backwards, I mean it is in a strong enough headwind, and it is going as slow as it possibly can. So when you look at it, point of reference to you, it is pointed to the left, but it is moving right. Which, again, like breaks my brain when I look at that. Just like, how is it doing this?
It's a plane that flies backwards. Yeah,
It can fly backwards. In the event that there is a complete and utter systems failure of literally every single thing on the airplane, you grab the control yoke and pull it straight backwards, which deploys the flaps on the wings. The airplane will descend to the ground at about 25 miles an hour.
Okay.
The wings turn into a parachute.
Oh, okay.
If it fails, the wings turn into a parachute and it will just descend to the ground at 25 miles an hour. Its fuel tank has, interestingly, the fuel pump is located at the top of the fuel tank. So you can attach a hose to the fuel pump and it can pump its own fuel into its fuel tank. So if you are at an airfield where there literally isn't a fuel pump, you can just go grab a 55-gallon drum and shove a hose into it and it will suck all the fuel out of it.
Okay.
It has an air compressor on board to fill up its own tires. You can put skis on it, because why not? It's such a goofy, incredibly rugged airplane. I think they're super fun. I think they're so cool. It also holds the illustrious record of being the only airplane to have been shot down by a helicopter. And when I say shot down by a helicopter, I mean shot down by a guy in the back of the helicopter with an AK-47 throwing mortars at it.
Okay, I was just imagining some guy with a Makarov taking pot shots at it.
Pretty close, yeah. It was like 2 CIA operatives during the Vietnam War, I believe. Basically, there was an Antonov AN-2 that like flew by them that was the North Vietnamese army, and they chased it down in a Bell helicopter while one person flew the helicopter and the other guy stood in the body and shot at it with an AK-47.
It's kind of crazy that worked.
Honestly, yeah. Apparently, they also took the UH-1 and they kept trying to bonk the top of the Antonov to get it to land, and it wouldn't do it.
If it can be taken down with regular ballistics gunfire, is it just poorly designed? Or...
No, it's a biplane, man. Of course. Yeah, you can take down a Cessna with a gun too. That doesn't mean that it's terrible. Yeah, I love the AN2. There's apparently a new version that's like, I forget what the specific model is, but that one's like a turboprop version, but it kind of loses the charm when it's got more of an elongated nose. I like it with a stumpy looking nose. It's fun. I like the AN2. I think it's a really cool airplane. That is my favorite non-American airplane, is the AN2.
Yeah, nice. Sounds fun.
They had one at Fort Polk. I think they probably still do. They use the AN2 for the 509th, any of the ones that are like airborne qualified, so they use it for paratroopers. But they also apparently use it in like the quote-unquote crop duster configuration to simulate chemical weapon attacks. So they like fly it over and just spray saline solution out the back of it, and just, you know, to make you think that you're being chemical attacked or whatever. It's neat.
Wonder why the American military wouldn't use an American plane.
Because it's a Russian, so it's OPFOR that uses it. So it's the quote unquote bad guys.
Yeah.
So they use an AN2 because it's a bad guy airplane.
Right.
So they also have a Hind at Fort Polk.
A Hind D.
I think it actually is the Hind D.
Neat.
They have one of those there too. Anyway, I talked entirely too long about the AN2. I really like that airplane. It's really cool. There you go. If I had infinite money, I'm buying an AN2. That's another thing that I would buy, is an AN2.
I'll pick my favorite non-American plane to be the Hind D because I saw it in Metal Gear.
It's not an airplane though. It's a helicopter.
Yeah, it's an aircraft of some kind.
It's a helicopter though.
I don't have a favorite plane. This is as close as you're gonna get from me.
This is the quote of, I don't want to fly in anything that can have a midair collision with itself.
What's that about?
About helicopters? I don't prescribe to that, but there are people that don't like flying in helicopters.
That's a fun quote. I like that.
I wanted to know your opinions on the whole Recce, SPR, GPR trend and how it relates to video game infinite influence. Is it due to 360 no-scope influencing the trends nowadays? I don't think so. It's just what the trend is. Gun trends are fickle and come and go very quickly. There was a brief period of time where everyone was like, oh my god, belt kit's the new thing. Everyone's going to be running belt kit, which again, I really like running belt kit. But everyone was, oh my god, belt kit's going to be the new thing, and that's what everyone's going to be running. And then now everyone has forgotten about it and is going back to using plate carriers or chest rigs. And it's like SPRs are just the new thing right now. Everyone's doing SPRs with LPVOs on them.
Can you explain this question to somebody who has no understanding of what it's referencing?
Recce, SPR, GPR is like reconnaissance special purpose rifle. And it's basically, you get a rifle with a slightly longer barrel on it that has really good accuracy. You put a variable power variable magnification scope that allows you to go from 1 power up to whatever. And I don't want to call it a sniper rifle because it is not a sniper rifle. It's just a slightly more accurate infantry rifle.
So the question is asking, are there more sniper rifles in video games because of people that like...
No, is it gun culture is now obsessed with Recce and SPR rifles because of video games.
Okay.
And yes, that does happen, that like a video game will come out and everyone will be like, oh my god, I have to have the gun from the video game.
Why don't you tell me about that person who owns a SOCOM because he saw it in Metal Gear Solid?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, I'm not basing my entire personality around the SOCOM, and I'm not telling everyone that they have to get rid of everything they own and only use the SOCOM.
I see.
It's like, use what you like. Just if you like using a specific setup, then use that setup.
Yeah.
But yeah, the gun trends, they're constantly influenced by different gun tubers and gun influencers or whatever. I feel like the next big thing that everyone is going to be losing their minds over is PDWs or submachine gun type of things. I feel like that's the next big thing that everyone's going to be going over, which I'm going to be a hipster about it. I liked submachine guns before everyone else did. I owned a TP9 before most other people did. I really like the TP9. So I'm all for everyone using PDWs and submachine guns, because then that means that more accessories get made for my cool PDWs, which I like. So everyone start using PDWs now.
Yeah.
And then just keep using PDWs. 5.56 is stupid. You don't need that. Just use 9mm. No, I'm just kidding.
So that's why you deterred me from getting an AR-15 for personal gain.
Yeah, it was 100% for personal gain.
How has the channel influenced you both?
Well, I got a wife because of the channel.
Yeah, I got a girlfriend. So, pretty heavy influence. I mean, what part of our lives hasn't been touched by the channel in some way? I was able to quit my construction job and focus solely on working on the channel, been able to meet some fun people, work with them on some other projects.
In like kind of a negative way, I'm online a lot more than I would be normally,
That's true.
which I don't particularly care for.
And because I spend so much time in front of the computer, it does mean that I don't get nearly enough exercise. My health takes a small toll as a result of it. I'm working on that.
I would like to spend less time online and care about that less. That is, I guess, a negative side effect of that.
Yeah, everything's got its pros and cons. I suppose being a creator means that it's always in the back of your mind thinking about the next project you're going to work on. It's always something that you're thinking about whether you want to or not. It's just always persistent there, so the grind is real.
Are there any other questions?
I believe that's it.
Okay. Thank you very much for contributing to Patreon. We really do appreciate it.
Yes, your support is very welcome. Thank you very much.
And if you would like to ask us questions, then you can do so by joining our Patreon.
Link is in the description and also in the comments because no one reads the description.
If you join at the $5 a month Buddy Chicken tier or higher, you can ask us questions every month.
And also get early access to videos.
So thank you all very much. We will be here to answer more questions next month. Okay, goodbye.
Bye.